If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new album in the description. Logic released his new album, Vinyl Days, on June 17th. And although it's already been quite a while, I still wanted to give my final thoughts on this record. I just had a lot going on in my personal life. But of course, I listened to it. Of course, I went back to it, listened to it a couple of more times. And the fact that I covered this album so extensively in the rollout for this thing, I think just deserves a final thoughts and review on this. So let's jump straight into this. So Vinyl Days definitely holds a special place in Logic's discography. It is his last album on Def Jam. It is the album that gets him out of his contract that he's been in for almost 10 years, even more than 10 years now. And in the same way, introduces a new phase in Logic's life where he is actually independent and releasing music independently. And he confirmed this, for example, in the latest Just Another Day episode, where he went over the whole, press for Vinyl Days. I would definitely recommend you go check out that episode. Really interesting if you're a fan. But let's actually talk about the music on there. We've gotten quite a lot of singles for this thing before it dropped. I think it was like 5 or even 6, but I think 5. And most of them were actually pretty good. There were only a couple of duds in there. For example, I personally didn't like Bleed It that much, but I know a lot of y'all really liked it, so that's even up for debate. I thought tracks like Orville or Vinyl Days or Tetris were also pretty great tracks. Other stuff like Breath Control featuring Wiz Khalifa was in itself good, but there was just some structure missing, some professionalism missing from the final product. And there's also something that I see over the course of the whole album. We'll talk about that in a second. The whole album is 30 tracks in length. It is quite a long album. It is a total of 1 hour and 11 minutes in runtime, so quite a long album. But this is broken down by a lot of skits on there and also a lot of the short songs, because there are only a handful of songs on there that pass like the 3-minute mark. A lot of the songs are even sub 2 minutes. And this is a certain style that I didn't like when I first listened to it. I think, to me, there's a lot of work that goes into a song, and you can tell that someone polished the song and refined it a lot more times, added like a little intro, outro, all of that, while on here it's mostly Logic using the instrumental and using the length of the track just to get his bars across, and then the song stops. Like, there's no art. To me, there was a little bit of an artistic element missing, but this goes hand in hand with what Logic intended to do with this record, which was a real, just back to the roots hip-hop album or hip-hop tape. And that is also why the name is obviously Vinyl Days, because he wants to take it back to those old days in hip-hop, back when it was still the vinyl days, like the days when you used to get your music on vinyls. So his intention, this is actually what he set out to do with the album, and I do like that. I like when artists are like, okay, I want to achieve this specific thing with an album, and then that's what they do. They lay out a plan, and then they do that. He's talked about this in an interview so far, and also in the second to last Just Another Day episode. He talked about wanting to leave Def Jam with an album that was straight hip-hop, to leave a label that is so important and legendary in hip-hop with an album like this, and he definitely achieved that. So as much as I don't like the individual tracks on there in themselves, or like the structure around them, I gotta give it to the guy for going out there, having a mission with the record, and then going through with it. That is definitely something that I commend. But going back to, what I kind of see over the course of the whole album, as I just said with Breath Control, I think a lot of the times there's a certain element of structure missing from this. A lot of the tracks could, kind of sound like demos. A lot of the tracks are just very short. It didn't seem like a lot of time went into each individual track in itself. But all in all, this album is still better than a lot of the stuff he's dropped. For example, I'm comparing it to Bobby Tarantino 3, which was the last release. I'm comparing it to Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, an album that people still hate to this day. To me, in the last 5 years, the only good project that Logic has dropped is No Pressure. YS4 was also pretty solid. So it's not up to level and doesn't live up to No Pressure, but definitely in itself, it is a retribution for the mid stuff that Logic has been releasing, also especially with Bobby Tarantino 3. There's a lot of features on here, a lot of legends on here. For example, we have AZ, we have The Game, we have Royce da 5'9" on here, Wiz Khalifa, as I already mentioned, Blue and Exile. So a lot of like really core hip-hop people that I'm really happy he got on the album. But there's also other occasions where he just wants to put on other artists, put on younger artists that are still coming up. For example, we have an entire track dedicated to introducing Nezzy Momodu, someone that if you look her up, she's still a very small artist, only got about 30,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And for Logic to put someone like that on and then still use his verse in the song describing the thought process behind wanting to put these artists on, I think is just a sign of how genuine and real Logic's appreciation for hip-hop and the game is on this whole record. Of course, this all leads us into like, what's Logic gonna do after this? Like, is there more coming? For example, he subliminally announced a Doc D sequel on this album, on the Dr. D feature that he had on here, so likely more stuff like that coming. But this does conclude Logic's studio album under a major record label legacy, and I think that he couldn't have gone out with a better record than this, even though, as I said, I have my individual, stuff that I don't like on here. Some of the short tracks, for example, some of the songs where structure was missing, but all in all, this is a really solid project. If you're a hip-hop lover, I recommend you go check this out. Even the song Black White Boy that I had, that I thought was like a really red flag, turned out to be one of the best ones on here. That's probably my favorite song on the whole tape, Black White Boy. He goes insane on that one. So, all in all, Vinyl Days, really good record. I think the perfect way for him to close out his time with Def Jam and the whole time he spent under the label, with all the ups and downs he's had, with people not being paid, with Under Pressure being undershipped, all the other confrontations he's had with them. So I'm glad he's out of his deal, because I think that makes him happier personally. I'm looking forward to what he got coming out in the future. I think that will be a very exciting time for Logic fans. I also like that he was like, okay, I could have just come out with a lot of pop stuff, made a lot of money, but he wanted to leave Def Jam with an album like this. And so whatever he does in the future, he's not going to be as commercially successful, obviously, but it's still gonna, for the fans that have been there for the longest time, I think it's going to be very, very special to see whatever Bobby comes up with creatively, because this dude has a lot still in store. He got a movie coming, more books, more shows, more everything. So this man is definitely creative all around and an all-rounder when it comes to that. So I'm looking forward to all this. But I think Vinyl Days is a great conclusion to a great career. Now I want to know what you think about this though. What did you think of Vinyl Days, Logic's new album? Do you think it is a, potent leaving gift to Def Jam, something that he could leave the label with? What did you expect to be on here? Did those expectations come true? What's your favorite track? What's your least favorite track? How do you feel about the length of all the songs and the album in total? All your thoughts and opinions on this, please let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and you'll take care.